This is how I transition from this to this. I always fascinated by drawing portraits like my favorite artist, but whenever I try drawing like them, it looks horrible, lifeless and flat. There is saying, before stylizing your art, learn to draw realistic as possible. It will be much easier to stylize once you understand the science behind how things really are. This really changed my mind, but not my art. So I decided to go back and start learning the fundamentals. My portrait went from flat and lifeless to vibrant and lifelike. It was like I was seeing and drawing with fresh eyes. This 3 week study didn't just change my art, it changed me. Hi, I am Nick, a digital artist based in India. Today we are talking about fundamentals of drawing portraits. We are also going to learn basic shape, perspective and more tips. Also, how to practice from basic proportion to make it look like a 3D lifelike portraits. Before we dive into drawing faces, let's take a moment to get to know our subject, the human face. It might feel a bit overwhelming at first, but trust me, hitting a handle on the basic structure of the face is the secret sauce to becoming a pro at portrait drawing. There are lots of ways to learn about facial structure, but one of the best method is by getting acquainted with human skull. So let's kick things off by sketching a front-facing skull. Don't worry if it feels a bit tricky, the skull is just our friendly guide, helping us to understand the foundation of the face. Knowing how the skull shapes the human head will really up your drawing game. So go on, give it a try. Okay, let's draw a profile view of skull. We will take a look at skull from the side. Seeing it from the new angle will give us even more insight into how it's all put together. Now there are few parts of skull that deserve a special shout out because they are super important in shaping head, eye socket, nasal bone, jaw, brow bone. Next up, we will take what we have learned about the skull and give it a friendly facelift, transforming it into more familiar head shape. We'll do this by breaking the face down into some basic easy drawn shape. Have a close look, you will see that the top part of the head is like a spear that been chopped at the sides, while the lower part is blockier. With this shape in mind, let's add in an eyebrow line, which is where we will pop the eyes. Imagine and sketch in two eyes like spear, a conical shape for nose, and little circle with a bump for the mouth. You have just drawn a robot-like face, which is great starting point for creating a perfect human face. The goal is here to get our brain thinking in 3D, which is super important for being able to draw faces from all sort of angles. Remember, face have curves. When you're drawing a faces from different angle, picture the front of it as a curved piece of paper. This will help you to accurately capture those lovely faces contours. Here we have front view of face. I have dropped the opacity to 50%. Draw a circle, put it over the model, resize it, then draw a vertical line from the center of the circle. Let's chop the circle from the both sides. Then we draw measuring lines for the hairline, nose, lips and chin. This will help us to maintain the proportion of the face. Draw a horizontal line from the middle which goes from brow lines. This line goes over the chopped portion of the spear. Then we have an eye socket, which is our eye area that goes slightly inside the head. Then we have conical shape for nose. If you see the top part of the nose, it starts somewhere in the middle of the eye socket. Here we have two planes of nose, the top plane and the bottom plane. Then we have circle for the bump of the mouth around the lips. and an oval below the circle, which will overlap the mouth circle. Then draw a arch starting from the corner of the ear, touching the eye socket and the circle of the mouth. This split the face from jaw and cheek area. Then draw two circles for the eyeballs. This circle goes from one corner of the eyes to other. Sometimes this eyeball goes slightly down to the eye socket. It depends on the face to face. Then draw jawline and cylinder for the neck. There is one big circle wrapping around face which represents the muscle of the face attached to the lip area. This is also responsible for expression of the face and touches both eyeball. This circle is also parallel to small circle of the mouth we draw before. Then an oval for the upper head and the ball for the forehead which is wrapping around the head. Lastly, we have lips, one curve for upper lips and another curve for lower lips. These curves wrap around the mouth ball. Then two ovals for ear. Okay, let's clean up this tracing. Make sure you clean up every stage so it will help you to understand what is happening here. Also, these are basic structure of face that show bigger planes of face. Okay, now we'll using this tracing as a reference. This will help us to learn to maintain proportion and 3D forms. Now this photo is our model and the tracing we did is our reference. What we are going to do is draw this reference as closely as possible. Let me name this as attempt. While drawing freehand, we'll focus on the reference instead of focusing on model. This process helps us to understand the structure of face. Now let's start with the circle. Put it over the reference. Resize it. Draw a vertical line from middle. It looks messy. Let me clean it up. Then draw a horizontal line from the middle. Also, here I have drawn guidelines which helps to maintain proportion. With more practice, you will able to draw without guidelines. Draw measuring lines. Try to avoid guidelines as much as possible. Our motive is to train our brain to see proportions without guidelines. I am repeating everything as we did during tracing our model. Here I will speed up this selection or else this video will be lengthy. But you should take your time. Once you used to it, you will do it in 3 to 5 minutes. Once I am done, I'll clean up this sketch. Okay, it's time to check our mistake. Taking our sketch over the reference, we can see our sketch is almost correct and just need very little corrections. Let's note that correction by drawing on our sketch. Then take it back to its place and correct it. Okay, that's it for the first week. You will practice like this with different faces and different angles until it becomes second nature to you. Here I am using 3/4 view of face. I have already done the line as we did in week 1, then freehand drawing using reference. You can see how things look more 3D in 3/4 view. Eyeballs inside the socket, the planes of nose, that ball of mouth wrapping around the lips. Everything we talked about in previous process makes sense now. Let's try freehand with this reference. Once we have done, we will delete the reference or hide it. That's our attempt beside our model. And drop down the opacity to 80%. Let's start with drawing the outline of the face first. Once we have done that, we can go ahead and draw eyes. Before that, we need to know the placing of eyes. For now, we will just focus on major planes. Starting with one line that goes over the edge of eyebrow, the third line will attach to the corner of the eyes. Same on other side. We will have three major planes of eyes. Let's do the same on our lane. Okay, we have diamond like shape. Then by joining this, we have our upper eyelids which wrap around the eyeballs. Then we have two lines for the lower part of eyelids. We will discuss these eyes in detail in future videos. Then draw a horizontal line between the two eyes to check whether our eyes placing is perfect or not. Then we have this iris. Now let's break down the nose. We have the ball for the nose which covers the slightly lower place, basically in the middle of the nose. On the top we have a rectangle and then the wing of nose and that hole for the nose. We can break down this nose into 4 planes and 1 bottom planes. Then we have juicy lips. I always start with the corner of the lips, then draw a V shape in the middle and curve for the both side. Then we have middle V shape. And lower part of lips. It's basically 6 planes, 2 on the corner, 2 on the other and 2 in the middle. Then we draw the lower chin hairline. Then we have a bigger planes and have new updated arch. I don't know why I did this, but I can see there is a plane which represents the cheekbones. So yeah, that's why we do this. This is what we will do in week 2 exercise. Let's do some cleanup on these planes. That's how our heads look like after cleanup. This is what we will do in week 2 exercise with different angle and different faces. For week 3, we have profile view of face. You can do the same for any type of face, whether it's a front facing or 3/4 face. Once you master the previous level, we move on the next level. This week we practice line weight and rendering. Let's go ahead now. I am dropping the opacity, then doing the same lane process as I did previously. So I have my reference image and this is my freehand attempt. I will erase this lane 70%. Now let's first start with drawing hairs. Think about the hairline we drew in lane. That's because this is where the hair is going to connect to the head. And for now we will only think about the basic shape which has some volume over the head. After tracing over the model, let's try to replicate the same shape over our lane. Now we have our basic hair structure. Let's complete the plane of our head. I am speeding up this video though we have already discussed this process in a week 2 section. Let's move on to the line weight. Starting with the eyebrow, here I am placing the eyebrow on the top of the upper area of eye plane and breaking it down from the corner of the face. Then we have eyes, upper eyelid, iris and lower eyelids. Upper eyelids have bold and dark lines compared to lower eyelids. I am also doing thick lines for the outline of the portrait and thin line within them, which gives solid look to our drawing. Also heavy line that emphasizes the darkest areas. Use thick line for shadows. Use thick lines for shadow areas and thin line for lighter areas. You can see I use thick and heavy line for ear as they contain dark areas and thin line for hairs. Lastly, we have nasal hole. Let's clean up this drawing. After we're done with cleanup, we will head for the coloring process. Select line art with the selection tool and color with the skin color. Find our line art layer. Then select hair with the pen tool and add brown color over the skin layer. Here I am using different layer for hair and skin. Now let's color pick the skin color. Add new layer over the skin layer. Change blending mode to multiply and add soft shadow on the skin. I am going to do the same with hair. Color picking the hair color, adding a new layer over it, blending it into multiply, and using soft hair brush. This will add shadows on the hair. You can see how it's giving depth to hair. Then we add highlights. For highlights, add a new layer. Change blending mode to add glow. I have used light yellow color. I am using a hard brush for hard light and soft for soft light. Hard stroke on skin for shadows, though it's giving more depth. For final finishing touch, I am adding red color on the skin and using Gaussian blur. After a few tweaks and adding highlights on the skin, this is how our final portrait look like. That's it. Practicing like this can improve your portrait skill. In next video, we will learn about drawing eyes, nose, lips and hairs, also stylization. Until then, study more realistic people with different proportion and different angles. Hopefully this video helps you. Make sure you subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video.